Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams to all the devotees. Thank you all for joining in for the Bhagavad Gita study. Today is very, very auspicious day of Akshaya Tritiya. So we've introduced our new Zoom ID, for which I'm very, very grateful to all of you. You all contributed towards the Zoom ID. So we will use this and start our study. Before that, am I audible? Can someone confirm with a thumbs up? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So let's start with prayers. Actually, my WhatsApp is not working for some reason. That's the reason I sent all the messages from Harinam Prabhu's WhatsApp. So thank you all for joining in. Let's start with prayers. Om Jnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauramani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradhayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Dishve Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam Pangum langayati girim Yadkripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanyam Ishwaram Harihi Om Tat Sat Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namah Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Dandavat pranams to all the devotees. Thank you all for joining in for our Bhagavad Gita study session. We are on chapter number 8. We have to start from verse number 22. Right? So in verse number 21, we saw how the very the beauty of the Lord, the Dhamma of the Lord, they're all very described very much in detail by Srila Prabhupada. Avyakto akshariti yukta stam ahu paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. Right? That abode where the Lord lives in all his beauty and splendor. Right? Venum kvanantam aravinda dalayataksham barhavatam samasidam buddha sundarangam kandarpa koti kamaniya visesha shobham govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. To that wonderful Lord who's looking very beautiful, wearing a peacock feather, holding a flute, Aravinda Dalayataksham, whose eyes are as beautiful as a lotus flower, as a fully bloomed lotus. Barhavatam samasitam buddha sundarangam, whose bodily limbs are also beautiful. Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesha Shobham. Hundreds and millions of cupids are being attracted by this beautiful form of Lord Krishna. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Vajami. Such a Lord who's staying in Goloka Vrindavan Dham. I pay my respectful obeisances. And how in Prabhupada also mentions in the purport how there is no difference between the Goloka Vrindavan Dham and the Gokula Vrindavan that is actually situated about 90 miles from southeast of Delhi, right? In the district of Mathura, India. So, like this, the Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela of the Lord are non-different and they all have the same potency. Right, now let's move forward. Text number 22. Devotees would like to read, may raise your hands. Let me share my screen and then we'll go ahead. All right. Prushabhanu Kanya Mataji, go ahead. Oh, I can't find you now. Anyways, okay, Rajneesh Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Pushas Parapatu Bhaktya Pushas Parapatu Bhaktya Lapastu Bhaktya Yasya Antasakam Pani Pushas is the supreme personality. Rah, he, Rah, is supreme, then who, no one is greater. Partha, son of Sita, Satya, Vaidhi, no such Labaha can be achieved through but punya unalloyed, undeviating, yasya whom taha within Bhutani, all of the Yena by whom perform or idam, whatever we can perform is basic translation. The supreme personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present above, he is all relating and everything is. It is here clearly stated that in the from which there is no ground is the abode of Krishna. In Padma, the Brahm Center describes the supreme abode as Anand Chinya Raf, the place where everything is of is all the very gatedness manifest. Here is of quality of subtle place. Nothing there is well. That variegatedness is expanded as actual expression of the Godhead itself. For the manifestation, there is totally of virtual energy as explained in chapter 7. As far as the material world is concerned, although the Lord is always before, he is nonetheless all pervading by his material energy. So by his spiritual and material energy, he is present everywhere, both in material and spiritual universes. Jasyantha Thani means that everything is within within either his spiritual or material energy. All this by these two factors or invisible vacuum planet only by devotional service as clearly by the word bhaktya. No other process can help one attain that goal. Thus, Gopala, Gopala 1.1 also describes the supreme abode and so was Sarva, Sarvahata Krishna in that abode there is one whose name is the supreme merciful deity. Although one, he has expanded himself millions and millions of years. their resolve to a tree standing yet bearing many varieties of fruit. The planetary or to light over Raccoon planets are four-armed and they are owned by a variety of Purushottama, Trivikarma, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Harikesha, Sankarshna, Brahma, Giridhar, Vasudeva, Damodara, Janardhan, Narayana, Vaman, and Padmanabha, etc. Ram Samhita 5.37 also confirms that although the Lord is in supreme about Goloka Uttavan, he is all pervading so that everything is going on nicely. Goloka Iva, Dasai, till Atma Rupa, as stated in Vedas, Devasana, State, Prasya, Vakis, Vividha, Vya, Sute, Tattva, Palasya. These energies are so that they systematically exist without a flaw, although the things are Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So very wonderful. So here, the Lord, Prabhupada is also mentioning here how the Lord is always present in Goloka Vrindavan Dham. Right? In Act of Devotion also, we study how the Lord is always present in His abode. At the same time, He is also present in our heart as our super soul. At the same time, He is also present in the Archa Vigraha form. Right? So in this way, the Lord is able to manifest Himself in so many forms and ways that are incomprehensible for us. Right? For us, if you are situated in this room, then we cannot be elsewhere. Right? There's no possibility of us actually being elsewhere. But some of the yogis and the siddhis, what do? They're able to be at the same time in about 8 places. Right? They expand into 8 forms. But all the 8 forms are doing the same thing only. It's not that they can do different things. It is only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, who can expand himself into unlimited forms. Right? That's what is mentioned in this particular verse. How the Lord expands, He is the Ekala Ishvara Krishna or a Sabhabritya. Then there are so many verses in Bhagavatam also which says that Krishna is that one supreme source who's the stotra or the source of all the others. Right? Krishna expands into Balaram, then Balaram expands into Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Vasudeva. And then, according to the various positions of the Shankha, Padma, what is that? Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. Right? The positions of the Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. According to that, the various expansions are known by different names, like Purushottama, Trivikrama, Vamana, Sridhara, Rishikesha, Padmanabha, Damodara, etc. Right? And then Prabhupada mentions beautifully, Goloke eva nivasati akilatma bhuto. Right? He is eternally situated in Goloka Vrindavan Dham, eternally performing his eternal pastimes. However, Parasha Shakti Vividaiva Shruyate, his energies, what are they doing? His energies are actually performing all the activities. Right? Although the Lord's personal presence is not required. Why? Because the Lord's energies enable the functioning of this universe, right, in a perfectly situated manner without the personal intervention of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. Let's move ahead at 8.23. Okay, Shobha Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam Mataji, Akshaya Tritiya wishes. Yeah, sloka number 8.23. Yatra kale tva anavrittim आवर्तिं चैव योगिनः प्रयाता यान्ति तं कालं Bhakshyami Paradashaba. Synonyms and translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yatra, at which, Kale, time, to, and Anavritam, to, no return. Avritam, return. Cha, also, Eva, certainly. Yoginaha, different kinds of mysteries. Prayatha, having departed. Yanti, attain. Tam, that. Kalam, time. Bhakshyami, I shall describe. Bharata Shraba, O west of the Bharatas. Translation: O west of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Purport. The unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are totally surrendered souls, do not care when they leave their bodies or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hand and so easily and happily return to Godhead. But those who are not unalloyed devotees and who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realization as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, must leave the body at a suitable time in order to be sure of whether or not they will return to the world of birth and death. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for leaving this material world. But if he is not so expert, his success depends on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable times at which one passes away and does not come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse. According to Acharya Baladeva Vidyabhushana, the Sanskrit word Kala used herein refers to the preceding deity of time. Haribol, Dandavata Pranam Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Madhavi. So, in this particular verse, right, and especially Prabhupada mentions in the purport very beautifully, Kala is Krishna, right? Later on in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Aham Kalosmi, right? I come in the form of time and devour everything at the time of death, right? At the time of death, what happens? Everything is taken away, right? Either the entire wealth is taken away, even when we are living, right? So everything has to be taken away at some point of time or the other. Either the wealth is taken away from us when we are living, or then the wealth may be taken away when, or we may leave the wealth, right? When we give up the body, then we give up everything, including that of the wealth, isn't it? At that time, everything will be taken. That's why Krishna says, Mrityus sarva haras chaham. Hara means taken away. At the time of mrityu or death, sarva haras chaham. Everything will be taken away by aham, Krishna says. Right? I will take away everything at the time of death. Right? So nothing is permanent that we can say that we can hold on, life after life, right? Even our own body, we have to give it up at some point in time, right? And now here, Prabhupada is talking about what is the time, and what is the time in which if we give up our body, then we can go back home, back to Godhead. Even the yogic processes, the other day we mentioned, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, they're all bona fide processes, right? They all help to go back home, back to Godhead. But do we have the time and the energy to follow those practices for thousands of years and then perfect our life? We don't have time. We are prayana alpa yashasabhya kalavasmin yuge janaha manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadrataha. Having born in Kali Yuga, we all don't have ayu. We have prayana alpa yashasabhya. We have alpa ayush. That means we have very less lifespan, right? Hardly 60, 70, 80, right? Prayana alpa yashasabhya kalavasmin yuge janaha. That is the nature of all the people of Kali Yuga. And how are they? The characteristics are very beautifully described. Manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagya upadrataha. Manda sumanda matayo. Manda sumanda matayo means very lazy, misguided, do not know what to do, what not to do, very confused. Then what happens? They are all manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagya upadrataha. So, Upadrita means always fighting, misguided, and they are always quarrelsome, right? So, in this way, it is mentioned that they are Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya Upadritaha. So, in this way, Kali Yuga Vasis, we all don't know what to do, what not to do, how to do. We are very confused. We are always fighting. We are quarrelsome. In such a situation, what is the best way that can enable us to go back home, back to Godhead? Ashtanga Yoga definitely not work for us. If we sit down and close our eyes, we'll be thinking of all the nonsensical things in the world, isn't it? So, and even a very advanced yogi, if he's not able to leave his body at a particular time, which is suitable to be taken to the transcendental world or to be taken to the higher planets, such a person also may risk may risk falling down because of a wrong time, isn't it? So that is why if a person is Krishna conscious, then such a person need not care when they leave the body or whether it is an auspicious time or whether it is an inauspicious time. Why? Because Krishna has told that if you perfect your life, you'll go back home, back to Godhead for sure. If you don't perfect your life, then you'll be born in a family of Brahmanas or Vaishnavas, and you'll carry forward your devotional service from where you have left it. So, where is the question of lamentation? There is no need for lamentation like that. Okay, let's move forward. Text number 8.24. Yes, Prishubhanu Kanya Mataji, go ahead. Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Agni Jyotir Agni Jyotir Shukla Shanamasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vido Janaha. Synonyms: Agnihi, fire; Jyotihi, light; Aha, day; Suklaha, the white; fortnight; Sata, Satamaha, Satasmaha, the 6th month; Titto, Uttara, Uttarayanam, when the sun passes on the northern side; Tara, Tatra, there; Praya, Praya, Prayat, Prayataha, those who pass away; Gacchati, go; Brahma, to the absolute; Brahmavidaha, who knows the absolute; Janaha, person. Translation by Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain the Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north purport. When fire, light, day, and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that overall of them there are various residing deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path of the new life, path to a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahma Jyotir. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. If any accident, they leave at the auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is very possibility that they will have to return. However, for the pure devotees in the Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment by accident or arrangement. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, ma'am. Hare Krishna. So, this is the advantage of following Krishna consciousness. If you are following the process of Krishna consciousness, then we are always at an advantage. Why? Because whether we leave our body in the daytime, in the night time, during the Uttarayan or Dakshinayan, whatever time, right? Whether we are, whether it happens through accident or whether due to some other disease or whatever may be, right? We are always protected because that is what Krishna says. Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. Whereas a yogi always has to be guarded. Oh, what is the time in which I'm leaving the body? What is the moment of the sun at this time when I'm going to leave my body, etc. Right? There's a lot of stress in terms of those who are actually practicing yogic processes, because nothing is within our control, right? However, when we practice bhakti, we completely surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. So in this way, when we completely surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we will be able to completely depend on the Lord, and by the mercy of the Lord, we will be able to go back home, back to Godhead, or attain a better destination where we continue with our process of devotional service by the grace of Guru and Gauranga. That is what is mentioned here. Right? Text number 24. Because for a devotee, there is no fear of returning. And even if he has to return, he will continue from where he left in the process of Krishna consciousness. Okay, let's move forward. Next, text number 25. Sarva Gopishni Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Dandat Pranam. Text number 825 of Bhagavad Gita. Dhumo Ratristata Krishnaha Sanmasa Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandramasam Jyoti Yogi Prapya Nivartate. Dhumaha, smoke. Ratrihi, night. Tata, also. Krishnaha, the fortnight of the dark moon. Satmasaka, the 6 months. Dakshinayanam, when the sun passes on the southern side. Tatra there, Chandra Masam, the moon planet, Jyotihi, the light, Yogi, the mystic, Prapya, achieving, Nivartate, come back. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet but again comes back. Purport. In the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni mentioned that those who are expert in the fruitive activities and sacrificial methods on earth attain to the moon at death. These elevated souls live on the moon for about 10,000 years by demigod calculations and enjoy life by drinking somarasa. They eventually return to earth. This means that on the moon there are higher classes of living beings, though they may not be perceived by the gross senses. Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam.
Thank you, Madam. Right? So very, very beautiful, isn't it? Those who are experts in sense gratification, if they are following the Vedic scriptures and they are continuously engaging in sense gratification, what happens to them? They will go to the moon planet. Right? Our Lord Shri Krishna has already told us, right? Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Avartino Arjuna. So that is the situation of Brahma Loka. And what to talk of our heavenly planets like Indra Loka, Chandra Loka, Varuna Loka, etc. Right? Wherever you go, you can enjoy for 10,000 years or even more. But then what happens after the 10,000 years? You have to come back, fall down. Martya Lokam Vishanti. Kshine Punye Martya Lokam Vishanti. Once the Punya gets exhausted, then Martya Lokam Vishanti. Come back to this material world. That is why intelligent people who are devotees, they don't want to go to the moon planet, they don't want to go to the sun planet, they don't want to go to the heavenly planets, they don't want to go to Janaloka, Tapaloka, Brahmaloka also. Right? They simply want to go back home, back to Godhead. And in this process, engage in devotional service. And even if one is not successful, even then one is put in a position where one continues from the path of devotional service. Neha Vikramanashosti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpam api yasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Right? So there is no loss or diminution in this path of bhakti. Even a little advancement can actually protect one from the most greatest type of fear. So that is why a devotee is always fearless. Bhajahure mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. Because Govindas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj sings that a devotee is fearless. Why? Because he's always worshipping and focusing and remembering the lotus feet of Nandanandana, Shri Nandanandana. Abhaya Charana Ravindare, right? He's focusing and remembering the lotus feet of Nandanandana, and in this way, a devotee is always fearless. Fearless across all the onslaughts of Maya, like that. Okay, let's move ahead. Text number 26. Sudha Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, pranams. शुक्ल कृष्णे गते हेते जगत शाश्वते मते एकया याति अनावृत्तिम् अन्यया वर्तते पुनः. Translation, synonyms: Shukla, light; Krishna, and darkness; Gati, ways of passing; He, certainly; Ete, these two; Jagata, of the material world; Shashvate, of the Vedas; Mate, in the opinion; Ekaya, by one; Yati, goes; Anavritim, to no return; Anyaya, by the other; Avartate, comes back; Punaha, again. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. According to the Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back. But when one passes in darkness, he returns. Purport: the same description of departure and return is quoted by Acharya Baldev Vidyabhushana from the Chandogya Upanishad 5.10.3 to 5. Those who are fruitive laborers and philosophical speculators from time immemorial are constantly going and coming. Actually, they do not attain ultimate salvation, for they do not surrender to Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Right? So those who attain salvation are those who always surrender to Krishna. Right? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. That is the path that is specified. And in this Kali Yuga, what is the method that is given? In this Kali Yuga, the method that is given is Always chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In this way, always remember Krishna. When you always remember Krishna during the life, when we are doing our normal course of activities like going to office, preparing our meals, or preparing boga for the Lord, or washing the clothes, or mopping the floor, or folding the clothes, whatever we are doing, if you are always conscious of Krishna, working for Krishna, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha, then it is automatic, it is very easy that we'll be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. We need not be dependent on the time, whether it is Uttarayan, whether it is Krishna Paksha, Shukla Paksha, whether it is the waning side of the moon or the waxing side of the moon. You don't have to worry about all that. We simply have to remember Krishna throughout our life, and then we are completely dependent on Krishna, whatever destination Krishna gives us, knowing very well that Krishna is our supreme benefactor, Krishna is our supreme well-wisher. Suhradam Sarva Bhutanam Nyatva Mam Shanti Prichati. That's why devotee is also very peaceful and also fearless, being completely dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. Okay, let's move forward. Next verse. Text number 27. Who wants to read? Sneha Prabha Mataji, want to read? Okay, I'm not sure if Mataji will unmute. Okay. Naite Shruti Parthajanan Yogi Muyati Kasyana Tasmat Sarveshu Kalishu Yoga Yukto Bhava Arjuna. Synonyms of what translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Na, never. Ete, these two. Shruti, different paths. Partha, O son of Pratha. Janan, even if he knows. Yogi, the devotee of the Lord. Muyati, is bewildered. Kaschana, any. Tasmat, therefore. Sarveshu, Kaleshu, always. Yoga, Yuktaha, engaged in Krishna consciousness. Bhava, just become. Arjuna, O Arjuna. Translation. Although the devotees know these two paths, what are those two paths? Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. They are never bewildered. Why? Because a devotee, although he knows, if one leaves one's body in Uttarayan time, he will go back home back to Godhead. If it is on Dakshinayan time, then he will not go home back to Godhead. But a devotee says he knows these two paths, but he's not worried. Why is he not worried? Because he knows that if I'm fixed in devotion, it does not really matter what time I give up my body. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, Shobha Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam Mataji. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Purport. Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concerns over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. The word Yoga Yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness and in all his activities. Sri Rupa Goswami advised Anasaktya Tasya Vishayan Yatraham Upayunjataha. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service. Haribol, thank you much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So a devotee is always peaceful and without anxiety. Why? Anashaktasya Vishayan Yataram Upayunjataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Muchyate. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. Because he is not attached to anything. Like only when we are attached to something, then we are fearful. What if it is taken away from me? Right? But when we are not attached to something, then there is nothing that can cause anxiety for us. Right? Because because we are attached to something and that something will be taken away, that is what is running in our mind, and that is what is causing anxiety for us. But if we know that everything is given by the Lord and everything can be taken away by the Lord at any time, then where is the question of anxiety? Whatever is available right now, let me utilize it for the service of the Lord. in the future, whatever is then available, that also I will utilize in the service of the Lord. So a devotee does not think that only if I have certain number of things, only then I will render devotional service. Otherwise, I cannot. No. Yeah. What does Rupa Goswami say? Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagam Uchyate. Whatever we have, you have to dovetail it in the service of the Lord and perform devotional service with whatever one has in one's possession, whatever resources, whatever skills, whatever intelligence we have. You have to utilize that in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anashaktasya Vishayan Yatharam Upayunjataha. Upayunjataha means utilize everything in the service of Lord Sri Krishna. When we do that, then we will be guaranteed the greatest destination by the performance of devotional service. Okay, let's move on to text number 28. Sudha Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, pranams. वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सु चैव दानेषु यत् पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानमुपैति चाद्यम्. Synonyms: Vedeshu, in the study of the Vedas; Yajneshu, in the performance of yajna, sacrifice; Tapasu, in undergoing different types of austerities; Cha, also; Eva, certainly; Daneshu, in giving charities; Yat, that which; Punya phalam, results of pious work; Pradishtam, indicated; Atyeti, surpasses; Tat sarvam, all those; Idam, this; Viditva, knowing; Yogi, the devotee; Param, supreme; Sthanam, abode; Upaiti, achieves; Cha, also; Artyam, original. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or punishing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end he reaches the supreme abode. Purport. This verse is the summation of the 7th and 8th chapters, which particularly deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of a spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmacharya. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for some time, at least from the age of 5 to 20, he becomes a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into household life and marry. When he is a householder, he has to perform many sacrifices so that he may achieve further enlightenment. He must also give charity according to the country, time, and candidate, discriminating among charity in goodness, in passion, and in ignorance, as described in Bhagavad Gita. Then, after retiring from household life, upon accepting the order of Vanaprastha, he undergoes severe penances, living in forests, dressing with tree bark, not shaving, etc. By carrying out the orders of Brahmacharya, householder life, Vanaprastha, and finally Sannyasa, one becomes elevated to the perfectional stage of life. Some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdoms, and when they become even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti or in the Vaikuntha planets or Krishna Loka. This is the path outlined by the Vedic Vedic literatures. The beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. The words idam viditva
Very
indicate
good.
that
Thank
one
you,
should.
Mataji.
Thank you,
Very
Mataji.
good.
Thank you, Mataji.
We'll
Hare
ask
Krishna.
Sneha Prabha Mataji wants to take.
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So here, this part of the purport is talking about how the Krishna consciousness is so beautiful that that simply by engaging in this process of devotional service, one can actually surpass all the ritualistic ceremonies that are required. Like in Vanaprastha, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi, each of them have their own rules and regulations, right? What they should do, why they should do. Brahmachari ashram is very, very difficult austerity, right? If the guru does not call the student for having prasadam, that student has to fast the whole day, right? And then we all know that the varnashrama system has been established by the Lord. Chatur varnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. I have established the varnashrama system, and this varnashrama system helps one to progress in the path of Krishna consciousness, but according to the Vedic literatures. But the beauty of Krishna consciousness is that simply by following devotional services, one can easily cut through all these rituals and directly become very dear to Lord Shri Krishna, like that. So last two paragraphs of this chapter, which is chapter number 8, will complete with this. I will ask Sneha Prabha Mataji. Okay, let me share my screen. Yeah, Sneha Prabha Mataji, go ahead. The words idam viditva indicate.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam. The words idam vivida indicate that one should understand the instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter and the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. One should try to understand these chapters not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with devotees. Chapters 7 through 12 are the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like coverings for the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. One who has a little faith in Bhagavad Gita should learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, because in the beginning of the 4th chapter, it is stated clearly that Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can perfectly understand the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and fortunately gets a devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand Bhagavad Gita. By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God. And Krishna's activities. Krishna activities form pastimes, name, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. Then one relishes the study of Bhagavad Gita and attains the state of feeling, Mataji, state of feeling always Krishna consciousness. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables a devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. This ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of attaining the Supreme. Hare Krishna, Danvat Pranam.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So in this way, we come to the end of the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, attaining the Supreme. Right? So what is the way to attain the Supreme? It is by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, in the association of devotees, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastraya, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoya. So by association, what happens? All our misgivings, all our misinterpretations, all our misunderstandings are cleared. And then we are able to practice devotional service with zest, with enthusiasm, with determination, with sincerity. And that enables one to attain the perfectional stage of life, which is to go back home, back to Goloka Vrindavan Dham. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Okay, so give me a thumbs up. Should we start with chapter 9 today? We have another 15 minutes. Or should we end our session and start tomorrow? Not tomorrow, Monday. Monday we'll start with teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So should we start chapter 9 now, or we will do it next Wednesday? What should we do? Next week. Okay. Let's see. Just raise your virtual hands. Should we start chapter 9 today? Okay, Sneha Prabha Mataji. Okay, Sudha Mataji. Okay, fine. I don't know about the rest. They're not dated this way. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Right? Nobody wants to. Okay, we have 3 hands up. Okay, let's start. Shubham Shikram. Okay, so let's move on to chapter number 9, which is entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge. Right? So Prabhupada beautifully explains in the last purport of chapter number 8, he's talking about how the middle 6 chapters, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they are actually the jewel of all the instructions. And the first 6 chapters are like the uppercase, and the last 6 chapters are like the lowercase, isn't it? So now we are actually treading into the jewel of Bhagavad Gita. And especially chapter number 9, it is entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge. Right? What is the most confidential knowledge? Right? It is not that it has never been spoken before. Right? Krishna speaks the most confidential knowledge, and Prabhupada especially elaborates on this most confidential knowledge, which is the devotional service in almost every purport, isn't it? So now we have another chapter dedicated to the most confidential knowledge. What is this most confidential knowledge, and whom it is given to, and what are the qualifications of a person to receive such transcendental knowledge? So that's what it is. Let's start with chapter number 9. Very, very beautiful chapter, small chapter. Let's start. The most confidential knowledge. Okay, Sarva Gopeshwari Mataji, go ahead. Text number 1.
Hare Krishna Mata, chapter, Navama chapter, the most confidential knowledge. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Idam tu te gukyatamam, Parvakshami anasuyatve, Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam, Yajnatva Mokshase Shubhat. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Idam, this, too, but te, unto you, Gukyatamam, the most confidential, Pravakshyami, I am speaking, Anasuya way, to the non-envious, Jnanam, knowledge, Vijnana, realized knowledge, Sahitam, with, yet, which, Jnatva, knowing, Moksha, say, you will be released, Ashubhat, from this miserable material existence. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of the material existence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed among the devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lords understand the mentality and the sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the signs of Krishna in the association of devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement toward spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, described in this 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already discussed. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the 2nd and 3rd chapter, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service. And because they bring enlightenment to the Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are described in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He, therefore, has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. Now, this first verse has specific significance. The word idam jnanam, this knowledge, refers to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to the spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. When one's heart is thus cleared of material contamination, one can understand the signs of Krishna. Simply to understand that the living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of the spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between the activities of the body and the spiritual activities of one who understands that he is not the body. In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his different energies, the inferior and superior natures, and all this material manifestation, everything. Now in chapter 9, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word anasuyave in this verse is also very significant. Generally, the commentators, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately because they are envious of Krishna. Their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So, such commentaries should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and the transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial. Hare Krishna, Dandatpranam, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Very beautiful verse and translation and purport. Pravakshyami anasuyave. Now, anasuyave means one who is not envious. Why did Krishna choose only Arjuna? Krishna could have chosen anybody, isn't it, to give the Bhagavad Gita? And Arjuna also heard, Duryodhana also heard. Everybody was there in the battlefield, right? Everybody could hear what Krishna was speaking, right? So it is not about hearing the external words. It is about assimilating and understanding the transcendental purport and to be able to appreciate it and apply it in our heart, right? The transformation of heart is is the essence of bhakti, right? If we are not going to write an exam, right? Of course we have our bhakti shastri, bhakti vaibhav, etc., but those things are done with the spirit of developing bhakti, right? We are not jnana yogis that we want to memorize certain verses and in that lies our success. No, our success lies in how much we are able to dovetail our propensities in the service of the Lord, how much we are able to accept the instructions of the Lord and transform our lives into a life of service, how much we are able to transform from bhoga vritti to seva vritti, how much we are able to move from the platform of enjoyment and exploitation to the platform of service with gratitude, right? That is why Krishna says, I chose Arjuna because Arjuna is a devotee of, is my devotee and is also non-envious of me. Right? If you want to become Krishna, if you want to compete with Krishna, then we are envious of Krishna. Oh, why only Krishna has to enjoy? I want to enjoy. So when I want to enjoy, and then I am frustrated because I'm not meant for enjoyment. I'm supposed to be a servant, and a servant is supposed to serve the master. When a servant takes the position of the master and tries to usurp the position of the master, then only Prabhupada says, such a person is put into an incompatible situation. Right? When somebody is put into such an incompatible situation, how can he enjoy? Right? The jiva or the living entity, his nature is anandamaya abhyasa. So it is not wrong to enjoy. Right? A devotee, even if he wants to enjoy, it's perfectly justified because that is the nature of living entity. Nobody wants to get sadness. Nobody wants to get misery. But then a devotee is very intelligent. He knows how to enjoy by engaging in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by satisfying the senses of the Lord, by worshipping the Archa Vigraha, by doing Harinam Sankirtan, by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, by doing all of these spiritual activities. When we please the Lord, then only Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. When they engage in the process of bhakti, that is the way that we can also attain any kind of bliss. But if we try to artificially exploit the resources of material nature, we will only be continuously more and more frustrated. If we want real bliss, then we have to surrender the lotus feet of the Lord and engage in the path of devotional service. Hare Krishna. So with this, we come to the end of our Bhagavad Gita discussion today. On Monday, we will start with teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and we will continue from 9.2 on Thursday next week. So I thank you all for joining in for the Bhagavad Gita study on the most auspicious occasion of Akshaya Tritiya today and Chandan Yatra day number 1. So we wish a very, very happy Akshaya Tritiya to all our devotees, and very enjoyable Chandan Yatra festival. So we can all apply Chandan to our deities at home. We can help in the grinding of Chandan in the temples. So in this way, we make ourselves an instrument in the hands of Guru and Gauranga to serve their lordships, to serve the instructions of Guru and Gauranga. Shri Harinam Prabhu ki jai, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. So devotees can switch on your cameras. We'll quickly do a 2 minutes Harinam Sankirtan, and then we'll take darshan of all the devotees on Akshaya Tritiya today. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Achyarishadharine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Gaurani Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshana Jaya Balagopal Jaya Guru Parampara Jaya Sadgoswami Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Srila Gurudev Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol अक्षय तृतीया महामहोत्सव की जय हो चंदन यात्रा महामहोत्सव की जय हो जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय हो श्री गुरुदेव की जय हो अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय हो निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय Hare Krishna. So we meet again on Monday, where we continue with teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and then we will continue our 9.2 on next Monday. Yeah. So I can see Rajneesh Prabhu, Shobha Mataji, Sneha Prabha Mataji, Harjeet Mataji, Sarva Gopeshwari Mataji, Karpagavalli Mataji, Sudha Mataji. Thank you all for joining in on the auspicious day of Akshaya Tritiya and Chandan Yatra today. Wishing you all happy Akshaya Tritiya and Chandan Yatra. And we'll meet tomorrow morning 5 a.m. for our Brahma Muhurta chanting session. And then we will continue our afternoon session 12:30 p.m. again on Monday. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Srila Gurudev ki jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So any doubts, queries, clarifications, realizations anyone has, you can raise your hands. We can unmute you. Okay, fine. Thank you all very much. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada